Alrighty. 1 second. Here we go. That's better. Okay. Let's pause that. Get the audio for that. Be here, but do not obey. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, but the audio's coming in okay. Awesome. Okay. Greetings, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to the stream or the channel, depending on where this is when you're watching it. There we go. For anyone not familiar with the the channel and the setup and what we do here, my name's Ren. On Mondays, we do Botany Book Club, as evidenced by the lovely book cover over yonder here. The current one we're working on is Wearing Commonplace Flowers, and I seem to only be able to get my brain to concentrate on written text that's not fan fiction in like 2 chapter chunks, so yeah. Hoping that next week it's gonna be a larger section. I totally thought that it was 3 that I got through this week. And I went to the table of contents, and it was 2, so I don't know. There's like a 5-page photo break in the middle, so I don't know. Anyway, how's everybody doing? Hoping you're all doing alright. Just as a bit of housekeeping, once again, the hot pack is out in place. This time it's because I was doing stuff all weekend, so that also contributes to, the whatnot. Different texts require different cognitive capacities. Exactly. So, is what it is. But yeah, so I was doing a garden tour sort of thing Saturday and Sunday that is gonna be kind of a vlog thing, so that will be posted when I can get it edited and uploaded and everything. So yeah, Bob Thulu is once again being any support, and I'm just kind of gonna be chilling in the corner over here. So there we go. Tired from being live and tech support, but Exhilarating doing one first in the poetry contest, so it balances out. Oh, that is awesome! Not about the tireds, but like, yay for being able to be tech support, and yay for. Okay, that's where my brain is apparently. Completely blanked on the word poetry for a second there. Alright. Anyway, there we go. See the heat pad, hope it's helping. Yeah, like, I can deal with muscle soreness in, like, arms and legs and stuff. That's fine. But when my arms are kind of having an issue, the, like, mid upper back is a thing too. So that's where we are right now. Thank you for getting the yay. Yes. Yes, indeed. The yay. Ow. Also, I haven't posted pictures of it yet, but I finished the sunflower that I was trying to work on Thursday. So this is the latest sunflower friend. That honestly kind of looks more like a lotus to me. I don't know. with how it's formed and the petal shape and everything. It the color's off, but that looks more like a lotus to me than a sunflower. I don't know. Kinda like it. But it's all nice and fuzzy. Alright. There we go. Anyhow. Yeah. Before we quite dive into the text and stuff, these two chapters, it's what's the second title? I can't remember what it's called. Okay, I know that one. Pink Dog and the Murdeau. Makes us think squash blossom sauteed in butter. I can see it. I can see it. Like, really. So for the textual info, we've got Pink Dog that is. I'm trying to remember where it cuts off because that's the one that I thought was 2 chapters because it's got a bunch of like pictures in the middle of it and it threw me off a little bit. But it's just one. But it's Lota continuing to try and do the garden setup and everything, and Bishop continually that was words continuing to like have issues figuring out what she's gonna do. Also, remember water. Water is good. Water is friend. But okay, one sec. The thought was there, had some water, and then the thought left. I know what I was saying. I just don't quite remember where it was going. Okay, let's go to the chat for a second. It's nice to see pictures of the house. We agree with the builders. All that glass is so impractical, but we aren't fans of that modernist style. Yeah, totally. Like I can appreciate having like a glass pane as an unobstructed view sort of thing, but it's not so great for like insulation purposes and stuff, so you know, in an equatorial region where there's like massive glass walls, it's bound to be pretty hot in there. Or really cold, depending on what the excuse me, what the ambient temperature is, and like time of day and everything. Like, also just as a security thing, right? I know that like big glass paneling has been seen as like a sign of affluence for a long while, just because it took a lot of skill to be able to make a flat panel that was sizable, that could be used as a window, and then it was showing that you have a secure enough space that you don't need your windows to be defensive, that there's you can, it's a sign you can pay the energy bills. Exactly. So you don't have to worry about security, you don't have to worry about uh finances. Not very eco-friendly, exactly. Like, whenever I like, okay, we've got a wall in the house that is essentially glass windows. It's glass paneling. But it's also got curtains in front of it, like 90% of the year. So it's kind of blocking out the sun, and it's keeping in the cool because that's what we need for my dad. So it's more or less like negating having the giant windows, but it lets in some light. But for this, it's just like full windows, everything, glass house kind of a situation. That, like, A, doesn't really look great, B, fights with the environment that it's in, regardless of where it is, but, like, especially in an equatorial sort of area, I would imagine. And, like, I know modernist architecture is a thing. It's a vibe for some people. I'm with you on it not being one of mine, though. Like, there are certain architects that have come out of that period that that have produced some amazing work, and it's like I would like to go see some of it, but I wouldn't necessarily like it to be my house, you know? A lot of talk so big about making the house fit into the landscape, but Tasha just did the opposite. Yeah, no, seriously. But if she wanted a house that fit into the landscape, it would need to kind of be the exact opposite of what she did. The only way that it would be fitting in with how it ended up being made is if the glass paneling was replaced by mirrors, from what I'm saying. Because I've seen some examples of housing spaces like that, generally in, I want to say it's Sweden. I think it was more of a architectural experiment, like someone's like senior project or something. They designed some houses where it's in the middle of a forest, and to not obstruct the view, instead of just regular walls and things, all external surfaces were mirrored. But I believe it was set up so it was that not double pane. I'm blanking on the term, but the glass that you usually see associated with like interrogation rooms and things. Yeah, the one-way mirrors. So you can see out from the inside, but you can't see in. Which, from what I know of one-way mirrors, doesn't work too great if you have a light source on the other side. So if you're in a house that has mirrors, then you can still see from the outside, but it would be less of an objective obstruction at that point. Of course, then it would be reflecting the heat from the sun onto the entirety of the surrounding environment, which might well be worse, just for like fire and things. And yeah, now that I'm thinking about that, maybe not the best idea, but especially for I can never remember how to pronounce it, but Samabaya? Yeah, also the glare. But it seemed to be pretty much yeah. Oh, in order to save my pop socket, I'll just have the fidget cube, because otherwise I will end up destroying that thing. And I quite like the little bee in strawberries over there. So once again, if you're hearing the clicking, it's just this, because yeah. Apparently the joystick wheel is having an issue. Alright, let's... Yeah, there we go. We'll do the circly one instead. Anyway. These are the best. Yeah! Oh! So, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Buttery Smooth, but he's an artist, streamer guy, who up until recently was based in the UK. From what he said on stream a couple days ago, he's now in Germany. But I think it's Friday, he does a like community draw along sort of thing. And the first prompt for Friday was the bee. So I ended up drawing a bee. Yeah. That was a fun one. Yes, we knew of Buttery Smooth. Yeah, okay. Can we read about native bees in the next book? Yeah, totally. I will need to do a research on, where are you going? Here we go. But yeah, I'll need to do a research on books for that. Yeah. Well, thank you. I had a fun like half an hour doing that, so yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, totally. Well, we'll see what to do for a B-book for the next one. Where was it going? Okay. House not eco-friendly, not good insulation, would distract the environment, bloody glare. It didn't seem like it would be all that comfortable either, honestly. Like, I know, like, mid-century modern is a style that a lot of people are into, but modernist architecture and like mid-century modern architecture and furniture design just it doesn't seem comfy, you know? So if you remember right, Pink Dog is the chapter in which we first see Bishop get really drunk. Yeah. That's the first time that it's on page, I think. And I believe it's that chapter that Lota um ends up in the hospital and has to essentially be on bed rest more or less for a couple of weeks, but pushes herself to go back to working on the Atero sooner than she should, and ends up getting typhoid? Is that what it is? Yeah, typhoid fever from rats that happen to be in the area. So we've got that happening, and we've got Bishop, like, drunk out of her mind at the same time, and it's a whole lot. The modernist stuff isn't comfy to us either. Yeah, like, I appreciate the aesthetic, right? Like, there's certain elements of modernist, like, furniture and architecture that, like, in certain capacities, like, it looks cool as, like, a set piece, or as, like, an interesting construction, or you can kind of see the shapes that are being used. But as a practical element that's integrated into the environment that you're constantly occupying, it if I'm gonna have a stool, it's gonna be a stool. It's not a chair with a back that's like that high. You know? Which, like, I realize that there's sometimes that having a really low back on something would be a benefit for somebody for whatever reason. I don't tend to be in that category though. And also, whenever I see chair designs like that, I know it's from like the sci-fi fantasy side of my brain, specifically the fan fiction part of the sci-fi fantasy part of my brain, but all I can figure is like, ah yes, chairs for people with wings. Which totally makes sense, but like, also, probably not what they were going for, you know, as a thing. You can totally trace current issues in Rio to Lotta's time. Yeah, yeah, no, totally. It, like, I follow a few people in Brazil. I, I'm pretty sure I've shared some of her videos, but there's a booktube creator who happens to also be a human rights lawyer who's based in Brazil. I can't remember which part she's in. Um, if it's Rio or slightly out of Rio, but there's been so many things popping up on my feed that she's been sharing. Honestly, um, like that your brain automatically goes to chair for people with wings. It's a fun way to look at it. Yeah, like, I mean, it doesn't work for me, but, like, there's probably somebody that would work. Yeah, yeah, Lou reads books. Yeah, definitely. That is indeed the person. I just couldn't remember what our handle was at that point. But yeah, no, Lou, um, Lou's cool. I don't know why, really. But it's always when I'm on stream that, like, the end of my nose and this one spot on my ear just starts itching horribly. So, there we go. That's this part of the stream, apparently. It's like, all through high school and most of, like, university, I really wanted to get an industrial piercing, but, like, it would have been in the spot that's constantly itchy, so probably not the best option there. On top of, you know, having enough issues with just, like, the regular lobe piercings, so there's that. Yeah. Anyway, um, yeah. probably a good call. Yes. Yeah, especially because that's one of the ones that has the highest rejection rate, from what Purists have said. So, like, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Uh, it is interesting, like, I think part of the issue that what makes it industrial, I, I don't know, honestly. That one, all I can figure is that, like, industrial architecture tends to indicate that there's, like, exposed piping in, like, the building's rafter sort of set. And an industrial piercing is, like, a barbell going across the cartilage of, like, the upper ear right here through the shell. So it's exposed, like, piping, if you will, or it has that sort of appearance. But past that, I don't know, really. Yeah, it, like, I know part of the draw was that I had a friend in high school who had one, and I thought they were pretty cool, but there we go. That was the same period that I was a fan of Ed from Full Metal Alchemist, so took a picture of the character into the hairstylist to try and get Ed's haircut. It didn't work, though, just, yeah. But then, yeah, because anime hair and stuff. And by it didn't work, I mean I was talked out of it. Not that it was attempted and then looked bad. So, yeah. Which really, it was a good call because, I know y'all can't see it because I have it pulled back. Because it's about yay long right now. I really need to cut it. But when it's short, my hair gets real curly. So yeah, straight blonde. I don't know. You take a picture of Akane from what Ramen 1/2 to our stylist once. You're not alone. Alright. Alright. That's appreciated. That is definitely appreciated as as a thing. Yeah. Ah. Oh yeah. I did find it interesting, right? With the text bit. There's a part in here where Lota is trying to get the governor to okay having like a giant swaths of grass in this park space instead of gravel, I'm guessing. There we go. And the argument is that grass cover isn't a luxury. There's grass in all parks around the world. Which, like, looking at it now, that's one of the big issues that you see with, grass cover not contributing to the environment. In a lot of spaces, it's an invasive species, unless it's a local grass that's just allowed to do its thing. And you see that a lot in other landscaping projects where it's like the attempt to make a green space, but it ends up having some detrimental impacts like a few decades later or what have you, when whatever the subject is like more well understood and things. So on top of like the political unrest that you see represented, there's elements with that, and especially because it seems like she would be pulling from non-native species for that particular thing, just because there's so much emphasis on like the Parisian gardens and wanting international architects to come in and work on stuff. So it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility, even though it's not exactly mentioned on page. But then you get into the issues of it's biographical, so how much is okay. Thank you much. So how much is creative license and an interpretation, and how much is like verifiable historical information? Which, because of what is being pulled from, like the vast majority of it is seems to be like relevant, viable historical information. It's just the lens that it's going through. Seems like lawns also tend to open up space to things like clover, dandelion, knotweed, daisies, and foxtails. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Which it depends on the type of grass that's used too. Because there's some grasses that allow for native seeds to flourish. Like this is kind of a side tangent, but like relevant botanical information and all that. Like there's some grasses that allow more or less seeds falling on them to germinate and grow, and sometimes that's how meadows are kind of restarted a little bit, because then you get the grasses mixed in with other vegetation, but sometimes it's a thick enough cover that whatever falls on it can't grow, in which case you get a monoculture sort of situation. But yeah, like, especially along the edges and stuff. I know we've got occasional dandelions in the lawn space, and the oxalis likes to bust up through the grass layer. We don't have any clover around here that I've seen, but um I can't remember the official name right now, but the butterfly weed is growing wherever it feels like. It was practically coming out of the drain pipe a while back, just because the seed happened to land there and there was some dirt, which is hilarious because if it's just doing its thing, it can grow wherever. But there's a number of like gardens that have tried growing milkweed. There we go. I've tried growing milkweed, yeah, in like starter pots so that they can be disseminated through the community for like uh garden sales days and stuff. And without fail, they all end up dying, which is bizarre because you don't even need to plant them. You just, like, if you have a handful of seeds, it's just, and you're gonna grow some milkweed. They're like dandelions like that. They have the floofy aerials and just land somewhere and oh, there's a plant. But like you try and intentionally grow it and it's just like, what? You want me? You want me to grow in this tiny pot? How about no? I have chosen this random patch of dirt that's like a 2-inch by 3-inch block that's like vaguely sometimes got water. I like that more. What? Wonder what the limiting factor is. Yeah, like it. They were trying to grow it in the greenhouse and it didn't like it, so they tried growing it in the outside grow space and I didn't like it. So they tried putting it in the direct sun and it really didn't like it. So like, alright, let's put it in shade, and like, no, they for some reason they all get to about, 2 or 3 inches tall and just die off. So I don't know on that one. No idea. Cause like it's growing in the rest of the garden just fine, where it feels like it wants to be. Just like the like the catnip and everything else. It's like, alright. Except for that, it's sending out runners and sprouting out where it feels like. So yeah, fun times. Anyway, yeah. Um, Oh yeah, there's a passage in Pink Dog, like jumping back to the descriptions of Bishop and alcohol. So yeah, that that like okay, my only direct experience with people experiencing alcoholism um is in the capacity of watching something on TV. So that's that's the lens that I'm looking at it from, right? And occasionally reading accounts by people who have gone through that. But the the descriptions of uh, addiction and things tend to kind of circulate with that. Why are dogs associated with drunkenness, sickness, and hangovers? Okay, we'll get to that in a second. Um, but it is interesting in here that in order to illustrate like how severe, I suppose, that experience is in this capacity, uh, there's a description of Joanna emptying out all the alcohol in the house because Bishop kept drinking it. So, in order to avoid that as a scenario, it was removed from the premises so Bishop drank perfume. Because perfume tends to have an alcohol base so that the moisture can dissipate easily. And that sort of like compulsion, desperation, what have you, seems to be in line with what I've seen depicted, at least. We dated someone who had no room in the fridge or freezer because it was that full of booze. Oh, wow. And yet somehow failed to register it was a red flag at the time. Yeah. Yeah, no, the only capacity, like, the only time that I can see that being a thing is if you're, like, an hour away from having a big party or something. But even then, like, you need some food space in there, you know? And then there's me that's lightweight enough that, like, I'm still kind of buzzed off of coffee after, like, 10 hours and have had to, well, it might be one now, honestly, because I don't drink really. But at at the height of my alcohol tolerance, i.e., I'd been in London for like a good couple of months, and whenever we went anywhere, there was some kind of alcohol. and and stuff. But like at the height of my alcohol tolerance, I had to limit myself to 2 or I would throw up. The alcohol in perfume is the wrong kind of alcohol. It's the kind of perfume will extra screw up your body. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Which I know well, I've heard stories of people who were wanting alcohol enough that they ended up drinking, like, rubbing alcohol or something. Which, yeah. Would cause all kinds of other issues, really. So, yeah. Yeah, no, I've got a bottle of vodka that's been sitting there waiting for me to make tinctures with it. And however many things of mead. And I don't know, it's. Which I will say, right? I know myself well enough to know that, like, I could drink a whole lot of, like, shots because they're tiny. But because things hit real fast for me, I would go from, like, vertical to horizontal, like, real fast after that. So, like, which is why I don't do shots generally. It's like 2 alcoholic somethings is the max. So, yeah. Tinctures for what purpose? It, like, it depends on what the material is. At that point, it was, trying to preserve the I think it might have been thyme at that point. Because I'd harvested a lot of thyme and mugwort, so it might be that. Yes, know thyself and drink responsibly, if at all, folks. Yeah, yes. PSA: if consuming alcohol and really, like, anything that has the potential for an addictive response, do so responsibly and with, like, awareness of and compassion for your bodily systems. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah. And it's one of those that sometimes you don't know how you're gonna react to something unless, like, until you're, like, in the middle of it, but, like, you know. don't be down in like 4 of something and then take a second to see how it's hitting you. Because, like, I'm gonna say this right here, right? Okay. Thank you for the stretch. Oh, ow. I don't know if that pop translated, but it was the shoulder over here. But like with the whole responsible drinking thing, right? It's a slight tangent from the book, but not by much. So like with the whole 2 max thing, right? That for me at least that applies to everything. Well, if it's a cannabis thing, then it's 1, but that's just because it makes me kind of dissociate a little bit. Which isn't the greatest of things when you're trying to walk home. But for like alcohol specifically, right? Different compounds affect people differently. Like, if there's a little bit of vodka in something and it's like a mix with, a bunch of fruit juice or something, I'm generally okay. Like, I could make that work, but vodka is the one thing that I know right out of the gate. If I have it, whatever it's in will affect me a lot stronger than if it's not in there. Like I could have like full glasses of mead and it would be fine. Well, I mean it's a honey wine, so it like I could have 2 that much of mead and it would affect me the same as like half a shot of vodka. And I know this because I've tried the honey vodka that, you can get it, or at least you could get at um a shop in Krakow. Actually, like I had food before that, but even with that, like it was a more disorienting situation than having a couple glasses of mead. So yeah, don't like wine just across the board, but mead's pretty awesome. I actually like certain kinds of beer, but because of the gluten thing, I can't have them anymore. um, Bourbon's nice though. For some reason, like mead and bourbon, or scotch, depending on what it is, but that I'm fine with. But like, you try and introduce vodka into that, and it's just like, what is this? No. And tequila is a slight step down from that. But I think for that it's mostly because it ends up being a lot sweeter than I can usually handle sometimes. Which is weird because mead is fine, more or less. But, yeah. because logic and things. Yeah, but because like there's such a such a visceral response when I've tried to test that like alcohol limit. I read stories about people who go on like multiple bottle benders and stuff, and it's just like, how though? I don't, what? Doesn't it also depend on the proof? Like mead in a lot of books is supposed to really pack a wallop, especially 11 mead. Yeah, yeah. Um, it depends on, well, part of the impact for me too is the sweetness level, because there's some, I guess it would be termed dry meads where it's not as sweet as other ones, and unlike for some, well, I guess it would be the same for like wines and stuff, because different grapes from different regions would produce a different type of finish. But I know for mead, um, it's like because it's a honey base, it depends on where the bees are getting the pollen from. So, orange blossom mead is sweeter than clover, I think. At one point I had it all memorized, but I can't remember at this point. But one of the guys I was interviewing, so I probably have it in my notes somewhere because I rediscovered my notes from that. But one of the guys I was interviewing for um, the master's dissertation uh, had a meadery in Scotland, so I was talking to him about it. And I have a bottle. Yeah, he had. Oh, yeah, okay. He had a tester station set up, and I have a bottle of mead from that one in my storage. So, yeah, there's that. Like, on the one hand, I kind of want to do like a mead taste test thing, but then I would have all like 10 bottles that I have open and would have to then drink them because otherwise they would go off. Because mead does that. Once it's exposed, it seems to be more or less stable in the bottle, but once it's exposed to air, like once you uncork it or uncap it, um, it starts fermenting again, or furthers, or it speeds up the fermentation process, what have you. So, yeah, which is a fun time. Side note, but mixing mead and like oat milk together, isn't a bad combo. It's an interesting thing. But doing that's how I ended up getting through the last bit of the last bottle of heavily fermented mead that I had. So there's that. Because it dilutes it a bit. But yeah. So tangents aside. Drink responsibly if you're gonna do it at all. I have to drink the mead before it goes off. Sounds like like it'd be a typical elf drinking excuse then, right? It's like every once in a while I see posts where it's like, oh yeah, if you have extra bourbon, if you have extra mead, like do this thing. It's like a fun cooking thing, and the little like subtitle response thing is always, what do you mean extra mead? Like yeah, that. I mean, obviously you're not gonna drink the whole thing at once. Because, you're sitting in your own space by yourself with a glass of mead or wine or whatever. By yourself. Just has a certain level of not the best sort of vibe. Which, if that's how you work on stuff, that's totally fine. It's just like, I know how I get under the influence of anything, and if I'm sitting somewhere trying to work on something, that's one of the most surefire ways to have it not happen. Because again, it's hard enough to concentrate on a normal day. Yeah. Also, it's interesting because I know that different places, like if someone's coming in to a location, they'll often name the space that they're coming into after a historical location or a particular person or uh, an existing place in their home region or something. But we've got excerpts from Bishop's poem, The Burglar of Babylon, and what's the before I say this. Yeah, it's like it depends on how it's interpreted. For that. Because you've got Babylon, as in the Babylon Empire, where it's, the Tower of Babel and the development of mathematics and um, like astronomy and advances in technology and everything. And you have that juxtaposed with the Hill of Babylon, or Babylon Hill, in Brazil, where Bishop is observing the populace and the military police is hunting down a random burglar who happened to be in the area because poverty was so high. In many respects, it still is, from what I understand. And in the poem, excuse me, in the poem, it's relayed that the police has cornered this person and they're still trying to get away, so they end up shot. And at the end, it comes back and she's standing out on the balcony or wherever it is, observing the populace again. And what's the line? That seemed like an interesting poem. Yeah. There's the lines. This morning the little soldiers are on Babylon Hill again. Their gun barrels and helmets shine in a gentle rain. I know I'm gonna butcher this, so apologies to anyone who speaks Portuguese. McHugh is buried already. They're after another two, but they say they aren't as dangerous as the poor McHugh. So you have the military police saying, oh yes, we are protecting the populace from these horrible people that are stealing things, even though it's the entire area is kind of slums and very poor, so you kind of have to do what you need to do to survive and protect your family in this capacity. But we're the good ones, even though we just randomly shot people that are just trying to I don't know, get a loaf of bread or something, probably. What's the connection between drunkenness and dogs, though? Feel offended on behalf of cannons everywhere. Okay. Thank you for the remind, because I totally forgot that bit. Okay. Because what I was getting, without any research or anything, what I was getting was that dogs tended to be kind of or at least street dogs, I guess would be the phrase, would be just kind of there in the environment, especially in the poorer areas. And where is it? and it sounded like Bishop was describing herself as one of the dogs kind of roaming the streets, and because she was very white, would tend to get a sunburn a lot easier than the locals, presumably. That's where I was reading it. So like another one of those instances of being in the environment but being separate from the environment because of X number of factors. But yeah, let's do a lookup. So I'm looking up symbolism of dogs and drunkenness, right? But the first four results that come up are symbolism of dogs and drugs, symbolism of dogs and drums, symbolism of dogs and drumsticks, and symbolism of dogs and druids. Like, at least the druids one, like, I can kind of see, because there is a lot of symbolism in, like, druidic lore and things. But yeah, it says something about Bishop that we can totally see that street dog connection, sadly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay. Okay. Huh. Okay. So if it loads, I'll read the quote. But from Animals and Early Modern Identity. Okay. Alright, I can't get it to load on here, but it's apparently an art book, and there's a mention of dogs and pigs. So what I'm saying on here is pigs dash, so like pigs this. Reality and symbol, pigs and dogs ran loose, ellipses, related to dogs and pigs, indicated drunken uncivilized behavior. So if I'm reading it correctly and it's not just cutting out entire paragraphs in that ellipses, it'd be that dogs and pigs tended to like just kind of do their own thing and sniff things and go where they felt like it, which indicated drunken, uncivilized behavior. Um, but the first result that came out was a Bible quote from Deuteronomy, which, like, wait, what? One second. So, yeah. I mean, she seems like a straight person. Lota adopts, if you will. Yeah, no, totally. Sick as a dog has never made much sense. Chickens being the emblem of cowardice also makes no sense if you've known any chickens or modern mini velociraptors. They are. They really are. So, I'm going to try and avoid actual quotes from the booble, but for the next couple of minutes, that's kind of where the discussion is gonna be. So just be aware of that. Or at least the next minute or so, because yeah. So there's apparently like a couple of passages from. Okay, let's just open that so it's saved somewhere. From like Philippians and Revelation, which it's been long enough since I looked at the book that I don't remember where Philippians is in the book setup, just that Revelation is at the end. We shall notify in chat when the biblical talk ends if anyone wants to mute. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Honeycomb. But what was it? Yeah, and all the quotes are from the King James version too, which is known to have multiple issues with the translation and things being added and changed because he wanted to push a particular agenda. So they're going into it. We know that, but what was it? It looks like for those particular ones, no, those particular passages, it's a reference to sex work. So, yeah. So there's one line that's like, "Thou shalt not bring the hire of a whore or the price of a dog." And in that iteration, um, there's apparently someone named Strong who wrote a concordance, I suppose, and there's some other English translations in which the dog referred to is is likely a male prostitute. Yeah. What was it? In terms of human behavior or activity, what are the author's meaning with the use of the word dog for the following New Testament? Okay, yeah, so it's talking about that. So there's a description of like dogs being, or oh yeah, beware of dogs, beware of evil workers, beware of the concision, I suppose. And then there's another one where dogs and sorcerers are all kind of lumped together. Um, but yeah, yeah. So apparently, in like most of the biblical shenanigans and whatever else, dogs are associated with uncleanliness just like pigs are historically. Um, Sex work, uh, magic, homosexuality, um, murderers is a fun one, but like it's part of that, big bad sort of thing. Um, but yeah, so there's that. um, yeah, which interesting setup there, because if we're going with that, which there's never any discussion of religion in relation to either Bishop or Lotta, but if that is a subtext and homosexuality is part of that subtext, that could be a thing too. I don't know. I had no idea male prostitution was in the Bible. Why did I not tell you the interesting bits? Right? Right? Like, I don't know. I don't know on that one. You would think that it'd be like, oh yes, this right here, this is where it says that whatever you're doing over there is bad. But no, they don't do that. But I don't know if that's because this particular thing is from a page discussing hermeneutics or not, but I'm just it's like the interpretation and stuff, so yeah. Interesting. Nope, nope. That's. I need backspace, not M. What are you doing? Yeah. The branch of knowledge that deals with interpretation, especially of the Bible or literary texts. Which is cool. Yeah, so, okay. We're gonna take a short, like, 5-minute break. I have a need of a bio break. Thought I was gonna be fine, but apparently not. So, I will put, okay. Let me know if, yeah, okay. Let me know if you can hear the music when I turn it on, real quick. That would be why it's not working. Okay. Especially because it's badly translated. Yeah. Yeah, there's that. Okay. Eel is once again spitting the hard facts there. Okay. Let me know if you can hear the music that should be playing. Highly problematic and otherwise, yeah. Huh. Alright. I know it was against pedophilia, but I didn't know it was based on segregated prayer. That's good to know. That's a message we can get behind. Yeah, totally. Totally. Alright. I will be right back. Talk amongst yourselves if you feel like it. And now we return to our regular release scheduled programming. Okay. What are y'all having a chat? Oh yeah, for Orthodox folks, yeah. Context is important. Here ends the biblical discussion. Indeedy. Okay. Hux. Trying to open commissions. Drawing hasn't been horrible, so I've been quite good. Oh, that's awesome! That is awesome, Eel. Buzzing right along, a lot of poetry. Yeah. Okay. Ow. Alright. If anyone needs some art. Yeah. Yeah, no, Eel has some seriously cool art. And does the streaming and things, but yeah. Very cool art. If you want to share your like Instagram or something too, Eel, you can. You can totally do that. Alright. Also, hugs for Eel. Hugs for Honeycomb. Yeah. Hugs for everybody. Alright. And stretch. Alright. Okay. Oh, ow, ow, ow. Okay. One sec. Be right back. Oh, jeez. Okay. Apparently I needed to stretch more than I thought I did. Okay, I'm just gonna sit here for a minute or so. I can't see the chat, but like, yeah. Ow. I'm just leaning forward and grabbing my feet and like, it's enough of a thing that it's putting a lot of pressure on my shoulders, but it's opening it up a lot, which is what I needed. Ow. Oh, jeez. Oh, that yeah. Alright. There we go. Sounds like a relaxing long stretch was in order. Yeah. Yeah. I'm also being reminded that I need to cut my nails. Because, like, I know that there's a lot of people that would be relatively short, but when they're that long, it's hard for me to type. But yeah, no, a nice, relaxing, long stretch. Very good. Very good indeed. Oh. Okay. We're reaching weapon length at that stage. Yeah. Yeah, like, on top of which, I do so much with my hands, and then, like, forget to, like, shape them as they're growing out and stuff, so I end up with weird shenanigans like this, where it's just, like, a random corner on the side. Like, what even is that? Ah, yeah. Oh. But yeah, no, A, I can't type, and B, if I let him grow any longer than this, I will end up stabbing myself. Like, I have a couple of random scars because that's what happened. So, yeah. Okay. Um. Oh yeah, and just popping back to the whole dog thing. That's all that I'm gonna say about it for right now. But popping back to the whole symbolism analogy thing. Um, there's a section in here that's describing um, was it McCarthy? Yeah. Um, Mary McCarthy's book, The Group, and the characters that uh, Bishop was thinking were supposed to represent her and Lotta, and um, the dynamic in in the book where uh, the relationship between the characters was being seen in a very negative light, shall we say? Just because that it existed between two female characters. Alright. I have returned. I was organizing the room I'm staying in for now. Advance. Oh, yay! Yay for organization. Welcome back and glad you have a place to stay. Yeah. I'm very glad you have a place to stay, Eel. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, it's the adult that has the whole Lotta yelling at the governor, and then the governor writing back and saying like, "You need to chill. You need to reread what you just sent me and like chill." Because I get wanting your project to run smoothly and having some issues and maybe having like some conflicts between the team, especially, when you're not qualified to really be advising on architectural structural integrity, and you're yelling at the people who are, because it doesn't match the aesthetics that you're going for. Like, I can understand how there would be some conflict there. But I see what she's trying to do, right? Of have like a green space that's open and accessible to the public, and she wants to turn it into a heritage place so that it can't be messed with by later institutions or people coming in after the fact, because she wants to make sure that that garden set remains how it will be when it's finished. But like the letter to the governor, at once I'm saying like I'm frustrated, I'm friends with you, I know how you operate, and you've been avoiding me. I need to talk to you about this. So, like, respond to my dang letters, because you're not responding to anything else, and I have to keep trying to find you. Which, in this context, it's, because people keep trying to kill the guy. But on the other hand, like, Lotta's kind of giving off some entitled Karen type vibes, too, so I don't know on that one. Kind of two minds on that particular thing. Didn't realize planning a park was so involved. She did run into a lot of pure obstruction though. Yeah, there was a lot of conflict that was just like pure obstruction. That was either because she was female, or because what she wanted to do went against what like some random like the wealthy person wanted to happen, or it was slightly more to do this or that other thing, but it would be better in the long run. But because it wasn't a short-term fix, then it was bad. So like I get it, but like just like with the letter thing, right? The execution of the initial thing was interesting. I will say, from a literary standpoint, that was a strong opening, though, because it very much sets the tone for the rest of the chapter. Um, I did appreciate, though, that like there's certain linguistic elements in play and stuff, but there's like when she's trying to get everyone to just sit down and have a conversation to uh, kind of hash out the issues happening with the garden creation and things. What was it? let's put a round table together and see if we can't get out of this impasse. Which I know it's become a term for like a round table or a round table talk, so that everyone's just sitting around a particular space and sharing the information. But I do kind of love the callback to Arthurian legend stuff, because, you know, the round table and people sitting at a round table, because it emphasized that there wasn't a head of the table, everyone was on equal footing, and everyone would have an equal chance to talk and air grievances and offer solutions to said grievances within the group. And yeah, so very cool on that one. Who would be in Seat Perilous? Sursen? Let me see. One sec. I mean, really, yeah. If I'm reading it correctly, right? Sursen is the acronym for the organization. So, yeah, basically. I will say it is weird because, like, there's some acronyms that are just capitalized, and if I'm remembering it correctly, that one was at one point, and now it's not, and it's just become the name for the space or the group. That might be completely off, but that's how I've been reading it, at least. Also, there's a certain poeticism of the beauty of a city comes in part from the rigorous conservation of elements from different centuries, like the different centuries that they're there. Yeah, Saracens, the Department of Urbanization, and something else. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, Saracen would totally be in the hot seat on that one. Okay. And there's another thing in here, which, like, I follow a lot of content creators who talk about, like, green burials and things. And one of the things that routinely comes up is, like, the being buried under a tree or something like that. Which as a point of interest, is a historical thing that was done, that is sometimes still done, sometimes, in places. But, what was it? They were trying to put a cemetery in the middle of the garden, and Lota wasn't having it because at a certain point there would be too many people buried there, and it would have to be like relocated or moved somewhere else, or like open a new one somewhere else. So it'd be easier and better to just have a cemetery that was like in a particular spot with a lot of expansion room, which makes sense. That was it. The argument that it would be a cemetery garden isn't viable because you don't plant corpses beneath trees. It's not good fertilizer. And the American formula for garden cemeteries is to plant trees among the corpses, not vice versa. just found that interesting there. Like, aha, well, I mean, you're half right. It's very much not good fertilizer if it's, like, ashes. I would say that much. If it's ashes mixed with something else, then, you know, that's possible. But putting the cemetery in the middle of the park was such a stupid idea. Great quote, though. Yeah, like, yes, this place where we're gonna just have a bunch of people, like, running around playing soccer. What should we put in the middle? A cemetery. Like, I'm kind of two minds of that, right? Because, like, funerary rites and plant research are such a big thing for me. It's like, it would be interesting to see the logic and the execution of that. Um, but from just a general, like, use factor, no. 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 There's a difference between, like, interesting experiment time and, like, a thing that actually exists, you know? Actual corpses can be very nourishing for trees, right? In most respects. The only time that I've seen there be an issue with that is if it's, like, there's something, like, whoever it was died from a particular type of poisoning or whatever. Like, if you died from, like, mercury poisoning or something, then it could be an issue because you're effectively putting whatever that toxin is into the ground and then sticking a tree on it. But overall, yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of times there's, like, you can get a pot or something that a person is put into with, like, the seed or something, and that could be an issue. But if it's, like, an established tree going into a soil that would need to be broken down because people, that would probably be an option. So that's also a thing that I've heard talked about. The difference between planting an established tree as a marker versus planting a seed or a seedling or something. That could be a conflict point for the plant itself. So, yeah. Depending on the species and where it is and environmental conditions and all the rest. Um, And this is also the chapter that we see Bishop considering maybe going to Washington to teach. Wait a second. And then we've got necessity is the plea for every violation of human freedom. It's the argument of tyrants. Because it's like, most of the time when there's someone in power that's like, oh yes, we have to do this, there's underlying factors. And then there's like to illustrate the political issues of the time, we've got Do Carmo, who's Vivina's niece, going to a protest, and Maria Amelia, daughter of a general and practicing Catholic, going to a counter protest. And then Joanna, who, you know, the other two are essentially fighting over the freedoms of the rest of the populace, and Joanna's just sitting at home watching would it be a telenovela? Or would that or is a telenovela a particular type of soap opera? Means yeah. Would it be a different term if it's in Portuguese than in Spanish? I don't know. But yeah. So she's sitting there watching The Right to Be Born. That's a soap opera. So yeah. And this is where we start with the pictures. So we've got painting students, and Lota is like over in the corner here. The impudent flower that Carlos Leo drew as inspired by Lota. Lota in her 40s, or at 40. Samabaya in the construction process, and at the end of the construction process, which, yeah, like, there's a lot of glass with that. I just, what? No. Speaking of protest, Lota arranging that demonstration to appease Carlos was so well calculated and funny. It was. Like, oh, you're back! Yay! Thank you so much for doing this thing that I know you hated, but like you can't take it back now because everyone likes it. See? Like you're so awesome. You're so awesome. So like you need to do this other thing that I want to do because then you'll be even more awesome. It's like your machinations are seen and are hilarious. So yes. Also, let's just take a second to appreciate, like, Tobias's little fuzzy face right there. Like, seriously. The little tuxedo cat. It's adorable. Alright. And then we've got a picture of the tarot. And its final setup. Okay. I'll hand the floof. Who does not get enough coverage. Yeah. Like, just the idea, right? Like, okay. As a logistical thing, right? Okay. Lota is hanging out, doesn't like Tobias, because he brings in mice to the house. Or random bits of mice, which, like, an animal doing that is just like, ah yes, my humans can't hunt because they're very ineffectual cats, so I will give them food. Here you go. This is this is your share of my kill. Alright, whatever. I got mad because Bishop wrote a poem featuring said floof. Bishop, who is notorious at this point for having, like, massive creative blocks and, like, can't seem to get the inspiration to do the things on the paper and ends up depressed and drunk and stuff. If your partner gets inspiration writing about your weird cat, let them write about your cat! Seriously, it's not that deep. Does it matter if they get published? No, because sometimes you just need to take a couple of minutes or an hour or like a week and a half, whatever it is, to just write some stupid ass poetry about your cat. Or like take an entire camera roll of your cat just chilling in the window looking cute. Because that's what they do. Like, I don't. What? Like, for someone who was so, like, involved with her own stuff, she was real pressed about that poem about a cat. I don't know. Just saying. Anyway, moving on. Uh, so, um, being that there's no attribution, like, Lana's jealousy over the cat seems excessive. Seriously. Like, you're not even here half the time. Just chill. God. Because there's no attribution, I'm guessing it's one of Bishop's poems. Which, like, yeah. Got used to the pictures for a second. Like, ah, yes, that. The thing that's, highlighted. But there's a bit in here where, Lota has left Europe. They're doing a tour, and Lotta's anxiety about the project is mounting too much. So she leaves to go back to Brazil, and Bishop is still hanging out and touring Europe. And there's a passage that's, is it lack of imagination that makes us come to imagined places, not just stay at home? Which I can kind of see that as like, it's the same kind of thing with reading sometimes, where it's like there's a wait, where was that brainwave going? One sec. It was there and it got derailed by something. It's like it's one of those times that, like, I can see it on the horizon, but I can't get to it. So, moving on. We might circle back to that eventually. I don't know. We'll see. Also, we have we have Bishop, who is a poet, and we have Lotta, who's kind of Shakespearean about her word creation. It seems. Wait, what was it? Lotta had been familiar with the French language since childhood. It's from everything that I've read, she was born in Paris, so yeah. She would make up new words in French whenever she wanted something unpleasant to sound elegant. So she referred to the sewage system, that conductor, de merde, as the Merdeau. Which, like, also having a sewage system go through a beach, man-made or otherwise, seems like it would be a bad idea. I realize that it's probably like sending the waste out into the bay, and that's where it's going. But it seems like it would need to go to a treatment plant or something. But again, that would depend on the infrastructure that's in place and time period and things. Because I don't even remember when that became standardized in the States, and I know Brazil has a different setup, especially if it's as close as it's sounding to the poor areas, because like sanitation has always been an issue too. So reimagination, increasingly, instead of imagining a unique look for each character, our brain will be like, that description is close enough to this person we've seen, so we're gonna do a shortcut and plug that person in. Yeah. That, like, I was trying to do a correlation between, like, reading the fanfic versus, like, reading a heavy intellectual text, and, like, I already know the characters over here and how they usually interact, so like, oh yeah, it's this is cool, yeah, let's just do that versus like mental math and things over here. That works. Yes. Just plug it in if you need it, and there you go. Yeah. Fabulous. Ah. Oh, jeez. Okay. All right. Yeah. Murdo is pretty funny. Cause like, because pronunciation and things like Murdo and Merlot are real similar. So like, they're getting kind of twisted up in the brain space there. Nice to know our brain isn't the only one taking shortcuts. Yeah, no, totally. That's yeah, yeah. No, they. I filmed a number of like playthroughs for games on here, and there's one that I ended up maxing out one of the characters just because it's the easiest to play, and when my brain's spiraling, all I have to do is like push a button and it's fine, and it's like actually fun. So that's probably gonna be the first one that I talk about of the set. Not gonna lie. Just because. But yeah. It's fun times. Also, just in the annals of that's an interesting phrase. We have Lota being annoyed at something and declaring, at least in her mind, what a piss off. Now, at that point, I'm wondering if it's like if it's a linguistic thing, or if it's a lot of thing, or if it's like a regional thing, or what. Because I've never heard it quite phrased like that. The emotive nature of the phrase is fully intact, and like I got that loud and clear. But like the verbal execution, it's interesting. Also, remember water, friends. Okay. So yeah, we've got that. And then going back to the political situation in Brazil, contemporary to the rest of the events, Lana's describing it as uh, being like happiness to the poet. Once again, apologies to everyone involved. Like, I will mispronounce your name. To the poet Fagundes Varela? Varela? Fagundes Varela. There we go. A nebulous dream. So, like, the political situation in Brazil is a nebulous, like, hypothetical just like happiness is to that particular poet. And then a bit later, we finally see Bishop coming back on a ship from Europe, and she comments that she was returning by ship slowly, the way she liked, the way Lota detested. So, outside of not so much Lota's influence, but like left to her own devices, essentially, Bishop is just kind of hanging out on a ship, doing the cruise back, reading some books. Apparently, really enjoyed seeing the plant life in Europe. It was closer to the plants that she remembered seeing back home in the States. So is contemplating more going to Washington to teach poetry. But figured that when she would get back to Brazil, she and Lota would be able to restart their relationship and return to Samabaya and just have time to have time to themselves, and things would kind of go back to more or less how they were before Lota was hyper fixated on the garden. Because that's kind of how it was when they were traveling together. But as the reader, we know that Lota has dove like straight back into the planning and project design and everything. So that is very likely not going to happen. Bishop really enjoys taking her time traveling. We get the feeling she'd be content to be on a ship that took literally forever to make the crossing. Yeah. She's like, she seems to be one of those real chill people that just wants to go along for the ride, quite literally sometimes. Like, I know personally I have issues being on ships if it's like a joyride type thing. If it's a specific destination that we're going to, especially if it's like a ferry or something, then it's fine. Or if it's a cruise going between two destinations, and then you get to that spot, you get off, and carry on. That's fine. But I'm also one of those people that, like, if I'm on a tiny boat, it's cool. Like, the ship can be rocking all over the place, and trying to cut anything or use the facilities would be annoying, but I'm not gonna get seasick. But, like, if I'm on the deck of a massive cruise ship where you know that it's moving, because every once in a while there's like a slight incline differential, but everything is more or less stabilized. That's when I get which is fun. Of course, I haven't been on a ship in a storm or anything either, so take that with a grain of salt. But yeah. Yeah. But like if there's a destination that like we're going to, that's fine. But I remember there was one time that we did a short cruise to Mexico and back, and because it was so short, they just parked in the harbor for like 3 days, or day and a half, however long it was, so that people could gamble in international waters. Because at least in this area, that's one of the things that you have to do in order to allow people into the casino setup on board. So we were just there, dropped anchor for like a day and a half, and it was not a good it was not a good time, I'll tell you that much right now. uh uh yeah. And the only way that you could get off the boat was, if you did a big bad and the police came and escorted you from the premises on a police boat, which they did, which is how I know this, because apparently some dude was trying to hit on the, 16-year-old or something on the boat, and that was not flying. So, yeah. Anyway. Or was generally harassing people. Can't remember exactly, but it was one of the two, probably both, from how it was being described. But yeah, that. I'm glad the police took action. Yeah. They, from the sounds of it, they called the staff called the law enforcement, and they came out. So yeah. I don't remember if we had to go closer and then come back, but I vaguely remember something like that happening. So it was probably a situation where we'd parked, something happened, they pulled up anchor to get back into jurisdiction. Yeah, that's what it was. They got back into jurisdiction so that the person could be taken into custody, and they went back to international waters to continue the gambling. Which, whatever works at that point, Yeah. So that's the end of that chapter. The next one is Bright Moonlight. So yeah, that's the extent of where I've gotten to at this point. I'm at 62%, so slowly making my way through the book. But yeah. So, what do we think of the text so far? Plan on 2 more chapters for next time. Yeah, let's plan on 2. I'm gonna try for 3 just to see if I can, but 2 seems to be a good pacing. So, yeah. We'll go for that, I guess. Ow. Yeah. Alright. How are we thinking of the book so far? It's like it's an interesting mix of like historical interpretation, but not all that historical because it's like lived memory. And like interview accounts from people who were there and everything. It's an interesting read. The characters are big characters. Yeah, no, the characters are very big characters. Like, there's sometimes that even if it's historical accounts, the characters seem like pretty one-dimensional sometimes. And it's very... The characters involved are very much people, you know? Like, yeah, it's an accounting of actual people as, you know, in the capacity of a dual biography. But there's times that even in that capacity, there's only a certain amount that is really addressed. And for this, it's the good, the bad, the messiness of humanity, interpersonal relationships, and they're very like fully fleshed out characters that you can see as being representative of the people they're meant to be. Actual people with all their imperfections on display. Yeah, totally. Which is something that you don't often see in most media in general, but like in text form a lot, which is cool. Also, reminder for the water. You know that. But yeah, so. Alright. So. We've been on for. Totally agree. At the same time, it's easy to turn Bishop and Lota into caricatures. Yeah, totally. It's one of those that I end up reading it as characters with certain traits pretty heavily emphasized, and then have to go back and, like, after a passage is read, go back and rethink that situation in context of these are actual people and events in this passage happened, if not in exactly this way, then like similar to how it's being described, which is also part of why it's taking an extended period of time to get through chapters, which is understandable because, you know, everything. But yeah, it's an interesting setup. Excuse me. Yeah. Alright. Alright. So, It's 8:30 here. We've been on for just under 3 hours. I'm doing alright right now, but I'm gonna need some food in the next little bit. So, okay. This little guy decided to make an appearance. So, stay over there, bud. So yeah. Thanks for a good discuss. Yeah, it was a good discuss. It was a fabulous discuss. So, yeah, for that, as we're wrapping things up, anyone have any particular, like, final thoughts that were percolating in the brain space, or not? Oh, Zane's on. Okay. Cool. I will do a look to see where. Oh, nice! Yeah. Okay. Fabulous. Fabulous. Yeah. Alright, so we'll do a raid for Zane once it, decides it wants to work properly. Okay. So, right. Thank you everyone for hanging out and being awesome and participating in the chat and discussion times. I will see you all later. Have a fabulous rest of your day, whatever time it is for you. Have a good one, everybody. Bye. Okay. One sec. So, y'all are probably on. Yeah, you're on the headphone speaker now.
I guess, yeah, I guess that would give you plenty of time to get through that anime list, because I was like, damn, I've been getting through some more anime recently, but yeah, I was like, damn, that's some serious
Have a good night. Okay.
That makes sense, yeah, if you're mobile, like dealing with surgery stuff,
I
guess it's time.
actually, I can just do this. Yeah. Copy you. Right. There we go.
Kelsey is playing mind games.
Copy that.
In chat, and for what reason? If I'm gonna repeat what you guys are saying, at least make it sense.
Paste there.
I'm gonna. This is gonna be a break one day on me.
Do that.
Shit, I'll take your hands. You can just say anything, I guess. Just say whatever you want. I mean, if you feel the screen.
Hugs for Honeycomb. Thank you for hanging out and being awesome and stuff. I look forward to hanging out in other things and in the Discords and whatnot. I'm probably gonna be doing a thing on the Discord. If not tomorrow, then like on Friday too. Just as a thing. I have an idea to do a hangout while I'm trying to clean up my space, just to force myself to have like outside pressure to actually do stuff, because might not actually have ADHD, but there's a lot of similarities with things, and that was a suggestion for how to organize your stuff. That may or may not work. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, have a good one. Bye, everybody.
What kind of a nanny for Amber Heard? Like her do-it-all person? She was talking about it. This one basically put together what I learned about your guys' math. Hell yeah, friend. That looks so good, elephant friend.
Right.
I love them. I love these mouths. They look like they were fun to do too one day. Last one stuck to playing games, some cool new ones.